Welcome back to my channel. I'm Zay, and man, it has been a while since I have filmed a video, but today I'm going to do my 2023 bookish wrap up. So, let me just say that I have missed you all. I have missed filming. Well, I have filmed some videos, but I just haven't edited them. What happened is I got sick in December, and it just threw everything off. I did recover from being sick, but I don't think I fully recovered. I didn't let my body rest, and then I got sick again, and then the holiday season hit. Christmas, I was very busy. Christmas, lots of celebrations and things like that. It was my first time that my entire family has gotten together since COVID, so we just did a lot, and we tried to make up for a lot of it. We had a lot of fun things planned, and because of that, it was very busy in the best way, but I prioritized spending time with my family and reading and enjoying my break, because I got like a whole week off of work the week of Christmas. So I just enjoyed all that, and I decided I was going to wait to come back and do this. So it's been a while, but it feels good to be back and to be filming. I'm excited for 2024. Happy New Year, by the way. So I had my entire December planned out for videos. Obviously, that did not go as planned. So what's going to be happening is I have this video, and then I have my next video, which is going to be my top favorites of the year video, and the next video that's going to wrap up my 2023 reading. And then I'm not going to do a TBR for this month. I'm just going to read whatever I want. Okay, I have a lot in this video that I want to cover that was all supposed to be, a lot of these are supposed to be individual videos, but we're just doing it all in one. So basically in this video, I'm going to be talking about my favorite series that I've read, new to me authors I've discovered. Let's see what else I have on here. Talk about some of my favorite audiobooks, most disappointing books of the year. I actually did film a video, and if it's not too long, then I will include it. If not, I'll just talk about a few of the books that I didn't love, that disappointed me. And then I have some book boyfriends. So I would love to hear like your favorites of these categories as well. Please let me know in the comments. I want to know, so tell me. All right, so first we're going to be starting off with my favorite series that I read in 2023. So my top series was definitely the Boys of Tommen series. I read Binding 13, which is the first book in the series and the first book in Johnny and Shannon's story, in 2022, when I read it, I think in November or December. I think it was November. And then I picked up Keeping 13 at the beginning of the year, and then I read Saving 6, I think in August. So this series is definitely one of my favorites that I read. It's definitely one of my favorites of all time. It was definitely a way to start the year, setting a precedent with Keeping 13, which is one of the best books that I've ever read. But this series is just so emotional, and it's popular and well loved for a good reason. And if you haven't read it yet and you're interested in giving it a try, I recommend it. Just know that it's really heavy, has a lot of different triggers, and they're really long books. But it's worth it. It's worth the journey. Chloe Walsh is one of the most amazing writers that I've ever gotten the honor to read from, and I'm just such a fan of her work, and I cannot wait to see what she has in store for this series. So next we have The McLean Brothers by Alexandria Howe. So I actually haven't finished this series. I've only read 2, I think, out of 4, but I loved the first 2 books, and I don't know why I just didn't marathon it. Sometimes I like to save books. I don't know, but like I feel bad. I'm like, well, I should be reading other books. I can't just binge this series, but I'm not going to think that next year. But I really loved the first 2 books in this series. I really love Alexandria House's writing. She's one of my favorite authors that I've read last year. And this series is so fun and also emotional. Like, there's definitely some triggering stuff in her books. But the first book in the series actually has even a trope that I don't even really like, but the way Alexandria House wrote it, I liked it and it was fun. So I gave the first 2 books in her series 4 stars, and I need to finish the series this year. But I really love them and they're just standouts for me. I had such a fun time reading them. So next we have the Cottonwood Cove series by Laura Pavlov. So Laura Pavlov is a new to me author that I read, and I absolutely fell in love with her Cottonwood Cove series. Now, full transparency, I tried to read the first book in the series. I can't remember what it's called. But I tried to read the first book in the series and I just didn't really like it. It's because it has a trope in the book that I just don't like. It's not really Laura. It was more a me thing. And sometimes if I'm just not vibing with the book because it has a trope, or maybe I don't love the way that this kind of thing is written sometimes in certain books with tropes, then I'll just stop reading it. And just, you know, kind of move on. But I'm so glad that I kept reading in this series because I loved the second book and every other book in the series. So maybe I'll go back and try to read the first book just to say I've completed the entire series, but I did read quite a bit of it. I did give it a good try. But all the books are filled with such different tropes and they're really fun. They range from like pretty like light reads to a little bit of heavier, nothing too heavy, but just a little bit of emotional. The last 2 books in the series, Before the Sunset and After the Storm, stand out to me as a little bit more emotional than some of the other ones. But I think what I love the most about this series is this family we're following, brothers and sisters. And I love them. We get family group texts and I love their dynamic. They're just so fun and it's heartwarming. I love the little town. It's kind of like a beachy kind of town, I think. I love it. I just really enjoy Laura's books. This series is just cozy and I'm excited for her next series. But this one is just one that I really enjoyed and I just fell in love with every book in the series. Seriously, this is a fantastic series. I highly recommend. Next, we have the Lost and Found series by Catherine Cowles. I am a Catherine Cowles girly, a stan. I have really enjoyed a lot of the books that I've read by her, but in particular, I think the Lost and Found series is my favorite from her. It is the most heavy-leaning romantic suspense than a lot of other of her books, and I love that. I love romantic suspense, and it's a subgenre in romance that I want to read more of, and I hope we get more. We did get quite a bit more romantic suspense subplots and things last year, so full-on romantic suspense books. But this series is amazing, and I have to say that Catherine Cowles is the queen of prologues. Like, her prologues will just suck you in, and the first book in this series starts off really, really strong. As always, when you're dealing with romantic suspense, you're going to deal with murder and violence, so look up your triggers if you struggle with any of those things. But I really enjoyed this series. I just think Catherine Cowles is a really wonderful writer. Like, she just writes very romantically, and then I have personally really enjoyed the romantic suspense elements in her books. I think that even if you don't like romantic suspense, I still would recommend that you give Catherine Cowles books a chance, because I think that the way she writes them is really well done, and she really balances out the romance and the suspenseful elements. You pretty much get more romance, but a good bit of suspense, and which adds just a little bit of danger and edginess to her books, which I really enjoy. But the last book in the series comes out in February, and I'm sad to see this series ending, but I'm looking forward to see how she's going to wrap it all up. We have the King of Sin series by Ana Huang. So I have enjoyed every single book in this series. There are no skips. The first book, which is King of Wrath, I gave 5 stars. Second book, I gave 4 stars. And the last book, it's like a 6-star read for me. I think this series is so strong. It is amazing. I'd love to see her writing grow and develop more in this series. It's such a different tone than the Twisted series. If you love the Twisted series, there's a big possibility that you're not gonna love the King of Sin one because it's so different. These are all billionaire romances, and they all are kind of slow burn romances. It's very focused on the romance and the development of the romance. It's not crazy steamy or anything. That's not even the focus of the book, but the steamy scenes are chef's kiss. But I really love this series by Ana Huang, and I am so excited to read more in the series. Okay, and the next one is the Windy City series by Liz Tomforde. This is a series that just took us all by storm this year. I am absolutely obsessed with Liz Tomforde, obsessed with this series. Again, I gave every book in this series 5 stars. Right Move is more like a 6-star read, and I also think that Caught Up is a 6-star read. They're just 6 stars for different reasons, but I digress. Liz Tom Ford is just such a wonderful writer. I just really enjoy the way that she goes about writing her romance stories. I just feel that they feel kind of different than some of the contemporary romances that are coming out. And I'm really just excited to read more from her. And I think we're going to get a couple more books in this series, from my understanding. We might only get one more. I can't remember, but I don't care. I'm going to read everything that she writes. But she's given us some of the best book boyfriends. I'm going to give her the award for the best book boyfriends. Like, I know a lot of people don't talk about Mile High that much, but I really love Mile High. I love the hero on Mile High. But of course, Ryan Shay and Kai just steal the show, you know? But I just really enjoy Liz Tom Ford, and I'm very, very glad that I discovered her this year. And lastly, we have the Princess Bride series by J.J. McAvoy. This series is so underrated. If you like royal romances, if you like Meghan and Harry, then you will really love this series. It is drama-packed. This series like surprised me, and I just had so much fun reading it. The audiobooks are fantastic. It's narrated by Shane East and Leslie Savan, I think. I love the series. It is so much fun. Technically, it's a duet, and then there's another book, the third book in the series. It's just a nice conclusion to the story. You don't have to read it, but I do recommend that you do. But this is such an underrated series, and I highly, highly recommend it. I had so much fun. If you want a lot of tea, if you want drama, good romance, I highly recommend it. Okay, so that is it for my favorite new to me series. Let's move on to the new to me authors I discovered this year. Okay, so I have a lot of new authors that I read last year, which is so great, and I love that. And I definitely want to continue to do that. I definitely think that one of my goals for the new year is going to be to read a new to me author every single month. So that's a really fun little bookish goal that I have that I definitely want to be implementing into the new year. But let's get started. So the first one is Laura Pavlov. I talked about her Cottonwood Cove series, but I also read her Honey Mountain series, and I love that series. Particularly the third book in the series, Evermine, is my favorite. Single Dad and Nanny. Of course, I love that one. I love Single Dad and Nanny romances, if you didn't know. But Laura Pavlov's books are just so cozy, and she's one of those authors that I think I'll turn to when I don't know what to read. She has a pretty extensive backlist. I do think from my research, it seems like her Cottonwood Cove series is the best that she's written so far. But I just really ended up really enjoying her books, and really have loved reading more from her and just seeing how she gets better in each book that she's written. And then again, we've talked about Liz Tom Ford, but I'm just such a Liz Tom Ford stan. I think that she's such a fantastic writer, and like I said, I really like the way that she goes about writing, specifically contemporary romances and sports romances. She's just written some of my absolute favorites, and her heroes are just amazing, and her heroines are so relatable. And I'm just really so glad that Caitlin from The Love Librarian is the one who encouraged me to read her books, and I'm so glad that she introduced me to her books. So again, another author is Alexandria House, we've already talked about, but Alexandria House has a very extensive backlist, and I'm so excited to dive more into it this year. But she's a Black romance author, and her books are high heat, but the plots are so strong, and the romances are amazing. The heroes are so obsessed with the heroines in her books. I just love that for them. And overall, her books are really fun, but they also definitely hit an emotional punch. She tackles some very hard topics in her books as well. I think she just balances and manages everything so well. So next we have Brynne Weaver, who is probably one of my favorite authors that I've discovered. I will be reading more from her because Butcher and Blackbird was absolutely amazing. She just has a really beautiful writing style, easy to read, and I couldn't put it down. But her books are also very, well, the book I read by her was very romantic. I really loved the way that she writes. I felt very connected to the story. There were so many things that I highlighted and annotated because it's just very beautiful. And if you have not read Butcher and Blackbird and experienced Brynne Weaver's storytelling, you're missing out because it is one of the most unique romances I've read this year. I think if you like the Mind Dev series, I think you'll really like that. It's the best comparison that I can give, but it is very, very different. But I don't know, it'll give you like the same kind of vibe in a way. But I will be reading more by Rin Weaver. She's absolutely incredible. So next we have Regina Black, who came out with The Art of a Scandal. It was her debut, and I will talk about more about this book specifically in my December wrap up. But I enjoyed the book, but I'm going to be honest and say that I did have a couple things I didn't love about the romance and stuff like that, but in the story. But the writing, incredible. She's a wonderful writer, and I'm excited to read more by her. Like I said, the story and the arc and the flow of the story and the romance itself, I did have some nitpicky things, but her writing, absolutely gorgeous, and I really enjoyed her writing style, and I will be reading more from her. And then we have Anita Kelly, read Something Wild and Wonderful by them, and they have another book coming out this year that I'm very excited about. I believe it's a sapphic romance. I could be wrong, but I really enjoyed their writing. Anita Kelly's writing is very beautiful, and it was a very like soft romance, and I just really enjoyed it. And I definitely want to pick up more books by them and go back and read the books that I missed, but definitely an author that I want to read more from. And lastly, we have Natasha Bishop. I read Only for the Week by her. Loved it. Oh my gosh, Jerome is just like book boyfriend material. We will talk about him soon. But I really enjoyed her books. Only for the Week was just so good. And she has like 3 other books out before Only for the Week. A short backlist if you're interested in diving more into her backlist, and I want to read them because I just really enjoyed her writing, and I really hope that she comes out with more books in the series, Only for the Week. I don't know if it's a series, but she introduced characters, and I want more books and more books in that world. So definitely will be diving more into Natasha Bishop's backlist as well. Okay, so now we're going to talk about my favorite audiobooks that I read in 2023. Okay, so I actually did an Instagram post about this. If you're not following me on Instagram, I highly recommend that you follow me at Witty Reads on Instagram because I do post a lot. I'm very active on there. But I did a post where I talked about my favorite audiobooks. I'm just pulling up my post. So I read a lot of audiobooks. I'm actually pulling up my stats from another one on my Instagram post. I read 128 audiobooks this year. It's how I get most of my reading done, and audiobooks is reading. I get so mad when people say this. Don't get me started. Ignorant, ableist people. Whew, don't get me started. But literally, I'm so thankful for them, and it's how I obviously read most of my books this year, and I'm so grateful for that. I really struggled this year with reading, sitting down and reading. I've just been struggling in general with focusing, and which is sad because I used to love to sit down and read a book, and don't get me wrong, I do want to get back to sitting down and reading sometimes, but just being realistic, I don't have as much time to do that. So I'm so grateful for audiobooks, and these are my favorites that I read this year. First one is Divine Rivals, which I read in December and loved it. So good. We'll talk about that in my December wrap-up and another video. And by the way, Rebecca Ross is also a new to me author I discovered this year. I am obsessed with this woman's writing. She is amazing. Like, blew me away with her writing. Seriously. I love Divine Rivals on audio. It's how I recommend reading it. Listening to it on audio, and I recommend following along in the book as well. So you can annotate and highlight all the amazing things. And then I have King of Greed. The entire series, King of Sin series, is duet narration. So go read it, y'all. All the books are incredible, and specifically this one is my favorite audiobook in the series. It is so good. It really just elevated the story, and this is a very emotional story. I feel like it really did a good job of bringing out those parts in the book and really emphasizing those. I just really love that. Okay, and then we have Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. I read this in November, and I did not do a November wrap-up, so I have not talked about this book, but again, this is duet narration. This is small town, billionaire romance. 2 people are reconnecting. This book is very emotional and deals with some heavy topics. So infertility is one of the trigger warnings. So just be careful when you go into that. And she does talk about it quite a bit. I feel like she did a good job of handling the subject matter very well, but the audiobook just really elevated the reading experience for me, and it was a fantastic audiobook, and I feel like Lauren Asher really wanted to make sure to pick the perfect narrators, and I think she did a really great job. The next audiobook is Butcher and Blackbird, and a lot of people talk about this audiobook because it is wonderful. I actually had been wanting to read Butcher and Blackbird for a while, but I waited for the audiobook because I saw who the narrators were, and I really might reread this book. It's so good. Joe Arden and Lucy Rivers is really good. I feel like she's underrated. I don't hear a lot of people talking about her. But this audiobook is amazing. Again, duet narration. It's one of the best audiobooks that I've honestly listened to. I had so much fun, and it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And then I read Love Theoretically. This is actually a book that I read at the very end of the year. Came in, snuck its way into my heart. This book, so good. I'm not an Ali Hazelwood hater or anything, but I just thought after The Love Hypothesis, she was just a one-hit wonder for me. But I love this book. I'm obsessed. It is so good, and the audiobook is amazing. I picked it up at the very end, like the second to last week of, or maybe it was the last week of the year, and I loved it. It has everything that you know Ali Hazelwood for, but I just personally feel like she particularly killed it in this book because Jack, this man, so freaking dreamy, okay? The next book is Shadows of You by Catherine Cowles. This is the 4th book in the series and my personal favorite. It's between Echoes of You and Shadows of You. I think I like Shadows of You better, but it might be because it's the most recent book that I read by her, and Echoes of You I read earlier in the year. So, but this one is really great, and it's narrated by Maxine Mitchell and Zachary Weber. I really love both of these narrators, and they did a really great job. This one is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Paulston. This book, y'all, so good, but the audiobook in particular was so beautiful and just so well done. Go listen to this on audio. The next book is The Princess Bride by J.J. McAvoy. I talked about this series, but again, I think that's how you say her name, narrated it. It's so good. And Shane East, if you know anything about audiobooks, you know that Shane East is one of the best male narrators. His accent is amazing. This man is so good. Let me know if you guys want a video on me talking about audiobooks and my favorite narrators, because I am an audiobook fiend, and I think I'm pretty good. Okay, next we have Coming Home by Kennedy Ryan. So this was a audiobook original, and it came out in February for Black History Month. And this is about 2 people who are both coming to their college homecoming, and it's kind of like a second chance at love. It's not necessarily a second chance for them because they weren't previously together, but they basically they missed each other, and it was like right person, wrong time kind of romance. And what I love the most about this book, though, is the production of it. It is amazing on audio. I highly recommend it. It is such a great reading experience. And lastly, this is a book that I actually read on the last day of the year, which is why I think it's good to kind of wait sometimes to do these wrap-ups, because I read another audiobook that was absolutely fantastic, and I'm pulling it up now. It's Sammy Espinosa's Last Review. Yes, by, oh gosh, I'm not sure how to say this last name. I don't want to be disrespectful and butcher it, so I'm putting it here. Please excuse me. But I have a difficult last name for people to pronounce, so I don't want to do that and mispronounce it for someone else. But I absolutely love this book. If you love music, I think you'll really enjoy this book, Second Chance Romance. It was so good on audio. I saw a lot of people put this on their favorite audiobooks of the year, and I was like, what is this book? Like, everyone's putting it on their list. And it came out in 2023, and I ended up really loving it. It's a little bit more than just a romance. There's definitely more things going on in the story, but this one is really good, emotional. I highly recommend it, and I personally highly recommend the audiobooks for this one. Okay, so now let's talk about my most disappointing books of the year. Okay, so like I said, I actually did film a whole video on this, but I am probably not going to include it because it's too long. It's a long video. I have 8 books on my list of books that were disappointing to me. And because there's so many, I'm not going to be able to go into super long detail because I'm not trying to do that. But let's just briefly talk about them. Jasper Vale by Daphne Perry. This is the this is the 4th book. I think it's the 4th book in her Eden series. And I really like, well, I liked the first book, gave it 4 stars. Second book, so good, 5 stars. Third book, this is where it starts going downhill for me. Third book, and then this one, I gave 2 stars. This is a gets married in Vegas and right when they're drunk kind of book, which I love. But this book just did not work for me. I felt that the storyline was just kind of, it just went in weird places in my opinion. And there's something that happens at the end that threw me off. It did not go with the rest of the book. Kind of gave me whiplash. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy this. And I was disappointed by it, but it's okay. Not every book is going to be a winner. But moving on. Next we have Happy Place by Emily Henry. So I actually gave this one 4 stars. The audiobook is really great. I think Julia Whelan narrates it. All of Emily Henry's books are narrated by Julia Whelan, and she's one of the best narrators to ever do it. But this book, the problem was that, and this one has a great premise. I love the premise of it. The second chance romance. This is about 2 people who are basically broke up. They've been in a relationship for a long time. They've recently broken up, but they are pretending that they're still together for the sake of their friends and their little get together that they have every single year. They don't want to ruin anyone's, time together, and they just have to pretend that they're still together. So it's second chance romance. I just didn't feel invested in their romance, and I have read some good books by Emily Henry, and this one I just felt very disconnected from, and that is not what normally happens with me in Emily Henry books. So I was disappointed by that I didn't love it and I wasn't obsessed. I also want to say that this feels very similar to everything else that she's written. And if this is just her thing and what she writes, I'm okay with it. But I kind of like to see Emily Henry do something a little bit different. So I loved Book Lovers and I loved Beach Read. First time I read What Happens on Vacation or something like that. I loved it. I would not love it now if I reread it. And this one is kind of in the same vein as that, her second book. But yeah, I'm disappointed by this one just because I usually love her books and I'm obsessed, but it wasn't a badly written book or anything like that. It is a well-written book. And if you haven't read anything by Emily Henry, I recommend it to you. It's a great summer read. It's not like I wouldn't recommend it or that I don't love it, but I just wanted to love it so much more. And I'm sad and disappointed that I didn't. So again, just disappointed by it. It's not like a bad book or anything like that. And then we have Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. Again, this is a debut novel by this author, and this is a second chance romance. And I just didn't really like the way that the second chance romance was written. I felt like we didn't really get to see any romance in the present day. It's told in past and present. We got a heavy emphasis on what happened in the past, and I just wanted to know more about them in the present day. Why didn't it work in the past and why would it work now? What's changed? I don't know. I just want to see them in the present day more, spend more time together. I just felt very disconnected from them in the present day. And I just feel like we didn't really get to see too much of them in the present day. But I'm excited to read more by this author and I absolutely love this cover. But I didn't dislike the writing or anything like that. Just the way the second chance romance is written, which I'm very picky and nitpicky about second chance romances because it's one of my favorite tropes, but sometimes if it's written like this, I don't really love it. Lastly is Hopeless by Elsie Silver. So I'm so sad about Hopeless, which is the last book in the Chestnut Spring series. Chestnut Spring series is one of my favorite series of all time, and I was really looking forward to Hopeless because it is Beau's book, and this is a character we've been anticipating for a long time, but specifically since Powerless, which came out this year, or last year, and it was the 3rd book in the series. I was just personally disappointed in Hopeless because I felt like there was so much anticipation for Beau's book and it was just so different than what I was expecting. but which is okay. But I just felt like I wanted to dive more into Beau and his character, more into his mental health and how he was coping with what happened to him. And I felt like Bailey, this is an age gap romance, and Bailey was so young, and I just feel like she was too young for Beau. And I just didn't think it was necessarily a good match. And Bailey's character was quite immature at times. So yeah, not my favorite, but I really did like the way that this series ended. I felt like I was very happy with the ending of the series, and we got a lot of Daddy Eaton, Papa Eaton in this one, and I was just very happy with how everything came together. I'm very excited for her next series that's coming out next year, but unfortunately Hopeless just wasn't my favorite, but that's okay. You can't win all of them. So next we have some books that I DNF'd that I'm just going to quickly go over. And the first one is Until I Got You by Claire Contreras. This book is confusing, weird, kind of strange. This is a hockey romance. It's not a hockey romance. There's only hockey in like the first part of the book, and the first part of the book is not even half of the book. So not a lot of hockey, and we get a past and present day, and the hero is so weird and cringe in the present day. He's really pissed off at our heroine, and he's really mad at her, even though what she did makes sense and it was the right decision and it was like the safe decision for her. He is pissed off at her, and he's kind of been trying to find her, and he finally does, and I just didn't like it. It made me cringe and feel uncomfortable. We have If This Is Love by Julie Ann. This is a like cowboy romance, and it's kind of like if you like that show Yellowstone, it has Yellowstone vibes, and it's age gap. I did not like this book because the heroine felt way too young for a hero, and the way she talked and things just made me uncomfortable, and I just couldn't get past that. And like I said, I just felt like she was way too young for him, and I just didn't enjoy that. So I decided to DNF it. Then we have The Stars Are on Our Side by Jennifer Hartman. This one makes me so sad because I really loved Still Beating. But I personally and I have a whole wrap up where I really go into detail about this book. But I just had a little issue with this book because we know a lot of, if you've read Still Beating, which I highly recommend that you read Still Beating unnoticed before this book, I just personally felt that we know what happened in Still Beating. We know what happened when they were taken, and we had to rehash those things with their main character. But I think the biggest issue for me was, you know, the difference between what happened in Still Beating and in this story is because Tabitha's story, I feel like she just wasn't healed enough for the romance with Gabe, and Gabe has gone through a lot, and if you've read Lotus, then you know his story, you know a little bit about him. I just didn't feel that she was healed enough and ready in any way for any kind of romance, which I'm sure throughout the book you get to see her, you know, kind of get through that. But it was hard and I didn't enjoy it. And then also Tabitha is rehashing what happened with Matthew. Her and Matthew were kidnapped together, just like in Still Beating. Same things happened, except that Matthew didn't make it. And I wanted Matthew to come back from the dead, and I just can't enjoy a romance like that. Like, I just can't. It wasn't fun for me. I can't be rooting for him to want to come back to life. It was just too much for me, and I enjoyed that more than the romance, and I just kind of had to DNF at 50%, which makes me sad, but it's okay. Okay, and then lastly, for my last DNF is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I am so sad about this book, but I have tried to read it so many times, and I can't get past a little bit. I've even tried to, like, okay, I'm just going to pick it up from where I left off, and I think I only make it a few chapters in. I don't know what it is. I just can't do it, which has made me not even really like Fourth Wing anymore. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to continue with this series. I may not. I don't know. And it's not only me. There's a lot of people who didn't love Iron Flame. I think it was probably written too fast. Maybe not well thought out enough. I don't know. It's hard for me to say that because I haven't finished it. And I just don't think I will. I've tried and I just can't. I physically cannot. I cannot read this book. Which makes me sad because I reread Fourth Wing and I was really excited, but I've DNF'd it a lot and I just don't enjoy it and I don't care to read it. It's so long and it just doesn't suck me in. It feels so different than Fourth Wing in every way and I just can't enjoy it. So that's probably my biggest disappointment of the year because I enjoyed Fourth Wing and I was looking forward to the second book. But all right, those are my most disappointing books of 2023. Okay, so my last section to talk about are my book boyfriends of the year. This is going to be one of my favorite things to talk about. So there are a lot. I have a lot of book boyfriends to talk about. Yeah, I'm just going to leave them all in here because these men are just top notch. I fell in love with them. I am obsessed with them. Yes. Okay. So first we have Theo from Reckless, our cowboy daddy. This is my favorite Elsie Silver hero, and I love Cade, but I think Theo is realistically, when it comes to like real men that I would love, it's Theo. He's so sweet. I love the way that he treats Winter. He supports her. He is very protective of her. He accepts her for who she truly is, and he's a wonderful dad. He just steps in right away when he finds out that he's a dad and takes care of his girls, and my heart just melted for him pretty much the entire book. I love this man. He is so dreamy. Okay, so next we have West from The Seasons of Secrets by QB Tyler. So this is a book that I recently read, and it's a new release. I got this one as an ARC, and I loved this book. Hot, fun, top-notch holiday romances, and it's not too holiday-ish. If you don't like holiday romances, you can definitely still read it right now because they hook, anyway, it involves around a holiday party, and this is boss, assistant, and it's age gap, and he's a billionaire. Wes, I'm obsessed with this man. Okay, he just wanted to shower her, and he loved her. I felt like he was so tender with her. He was so, Wes is a billionaire. I don't know what else you could say about him. He was just hot, and he just wanted to spoil her. I love Wes. Love him. Okay. Next is Jack Smith from Love Theoretically. This man is so secretly obsessed with our heroine. Like, he wants her. He's been pining after her. He's been longing after her. The premise of this book is so much fun. Basically been obsessed and secretly been wanting her for a long time, and I was just in love with everything that this man said to her. And there's like a snowed in scene, so it's perfect to read around this time of year. I love Jack Smith. Love him. I'll have to give it to Allie that I think she writes, Allie Hazelwood. I think she does write really good heroes, and of course they're huge. We love that. Okay, next we have Cage from After the Storm by Laura Pavlov. So Cage is a veterinarian in his small town. He's a single dad, and this book in particular is a second chance romance, and it's between these two people who were each other's first loves, and they reunite in the small town that they met in, and where Cage still lives in with his daughter. And Cage is such a good dad. The way that he just adores his daughter it just melted me, and he loved both of them, both of his girls. He has a secret tattoo inspired by the heroine, which I love, that little micro trope, and it's like close to his heart. I love that man. And then we have Rowan from Butcher and Blackbird. He is just, first of all, he's a chef, but then he's also, first of all, he can cook. and he's a serial killer. He kills bad guys. He is so romantic. Like he's just dreamy. There's so many like squilly moments that I have in this book. He also has a tattoo of the heroine. Also been pining and longing after her. It's just everything. Go read Butcher and Blackbird if you have not yet. It should be like on the top of your list. If it's a 2023 romance release that you missed, you need to read Butcher and Blackbird. Okay, so next we have Johnny from the Boys of Tolman series. I mean, he's everything that you could want. He is a toucher and you die. He is a ride or die. And he is so young. And the way that he loves and protects and cares about Shannon, he is just such a good boy. And we get to see a lot of his parents, especially in the second book. And you can just tell that they are good people too. And they raise this really wonderful young boy. He's 16 years old, so he's not like a man, but he definitely has to step up. And there's one scene in particular in Keeping 13, I can't give it away, it's so spoilery, that was just so, oh my gosh, made me bawl my eyes out, that he did that for Shannon and her family. And he is just so protective of her, and he loves her, and he protects her in every way, her heart and physically and emotionally. Johnny is a top tier boyfriend, and he's so young, book boyfriend. He's so young too, and he's taking on so much. I love him. Then we have Rome for Only for the Weak. Also another dreamy man. He is perfect. Perfection. There's just one scene in particular where several scenes of him sticking up for Janelle. Janelle has honestly very emotionally abusive mother who's a narcissist, and her sister mistreats her. And Rome steps in several times in this book and protects her and sticks up for her and defends her, and he's constantly like telling her like, you deserve more than this, like you're this and you're that. And she's such an amazing woman. And so to see her treated like that was hard for Rome and hard for the reader to experience as well. But there's this one scene in particular where, because her sister has just been driving her crazy, Janelle crazy, or heroine, and Rome decides that he's going to plan a whole day for her to enjoy herself. And I haven't explained this book, but the setup of this book is it takes place in Tulum, Mexico. Janelle's sister is getting married, and she's getting married to Janelle's ex-boyfriend. And so a big group of them, the bridal party, goes to Tulum early just to kind of get some downtime and just get to experience it a little bit. But Janelle's sister is making things very, very hard for Janelle. And so anyway, she's been stressing Janelle out, and Rome decides he's going to plan a whole day for her to just relax and enjoy herself. So he rents a yacht, and he's like, get your book, because she loves to read. You're just going to read and relax the entire day. Where is he? Where is my Rome? I don't know, but I loved him. He was amazing. Okay, and then we have Beau from Out on a Limb. You guys know how much I love Out on a Limb. Beau is just everything, okay? He is so patient and kind and sweet and encouraging, and he's so in tune with exactly with what Wen needs. He is excited to know that he's going to be a dad. He steps in right away, and his first reaction is, I want to take care of you, and I want to take care of our baby. He's just amazing. And so is Wen. I love them both, my babies. Okay. So then we have Ryan Shay. I've talked about Ryan Shay all year, but well, not all year, but the entire time that I'm making videos. I love this man. He's perfect. Okay. I think what I just love the most is that he was such a gentleman, and I loved the little things that he remembered about Indy that makes Indy who she is. I thought that was very special, and that's all anybody ever wants is for someone to really know them. And he's so thoughtful and considerate, and also very protective of her as well. I love them. Okay, and then lastly we have Kai from Caught Up. So Kai is just a dreamboat. He is an amazing dad, an amazing baseball player, and honestly, him and Miller just really balanced each other out so well, and I really just enjoyed everything about their romance, but in particular, Kai was just such a good man and such a good-hearted man. Liz Tomfleur just really writes the best heroes. They're gentlemen, and they're sweet, and they're funny, and they're sexy, and they're protective in a non-alpha male-y kind of way. They just, to me, take care of the women, their women, and support them and let them shine. And I just love that so much. Okay, that is it for me and my 2023 year as a whole. My next video will be my top books of the year. Very excited to share those with you all. But if you all watched the entire video, leave me like a celebration emoji, because this is a new year and we are done with 2023, and that is it for me. But thank you all so much for watching, and if I would love to know like your book boyfriends or whatever, favorite authors you discovered, favorite series. I want to know them all. Tell me in the comments below. Well, in my next video. Bye.